Okay, so procrastination, we've all been there.
Right.
That deadline is like breathing down your neck. Your to-do list is a mile long. And what are we doing?
Yeah.
Anything but what we're supposed to be doing.
Anything else?
So today we are going deep
Yes.
on procrastination. We're doing a deep dive
Love it.
into this universal struggle
It is universal.
with Tim Urban's Procrastination Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
From his blog. Wait, but why?
Yes.
Now, you sent this in.
A lot of people did.
And we're going to unpack it together.
Absolutely.
What I find fascinating about this article is it goes beyond like that, I'll just do it later feeling.
Yeah.
And asks, is there actually a difference between being a procrastinator and being, get this, a disastinator or an impostinator?
I love those terms.
Right.
They definitely caught my attention.
Yeah.
And I think what Urban does really well is he makes us laugh at ourselves while also revealing some pretty deep truths about why we procrastinate.
Absolutely. He starts by sharing his own journey. And it's so relatable.
Oh, yeah.
He was that student who could pull it off.
Right.
It's a project the night before it was due.
Totally.
But when he got to college, with its less structured environment, that casual procrastination became a real problem.
It does.
It can spiral.
He was constantly battling between what he calls the rational decision maker.
Love it.
And the instant gratification monkey in his brain.
Yes.
And we've all met this monkey.
We know this monkey.
It's that voice that's like, hey, let's just check social media for 5 minutes, which turns into like 2 hours.
Or like 8 hours.
Oh, right.
Or a whole day.
The whole day.
That internal struggle is something we all experience, isn't it?
Yes.
But here's the thing. Urban thought that once he found his passion, the monkey would just vanish.
Right.
He even moved to L.A. to pursue music composition.
He did.
But even then, the monkey sabotaged his efforts.
He found a way.
He did.
And this is where it gets interesting.
Really interesting.
It wasn't the task the monkey hated.
Right.
It was the pressure.
It was the pressure of the task.
Of the task.
He wanted to avoid anything that felt too high stakes.
Anything important.
Anything important.
Difficult.
Yes.
And to understand this better, he uses something called the Eisenhower matrix, which I think is so helpful for visualizing time management.
It is a brilliant tool.
Right.
It is, think of it like a graph.
Okay.
One axis is urgent, not urgent.
Okay.
The other is important, not important.
Got it.
This creates 4 quadrants. And think about your own week. Have you ever felt super busy but not actually productive?
All the time.
You're probably hanging out in quadrant 3 doing things that feel urgent.
Yeah.
Like maybe replying to emails or attending meetings, but you're not actually moving the needle on your long-term goals.
Right.
This, my friend,
is
the impostinator's trap.
Oh, no.
You appear busy, but you are achieving very little of actual importance.
Okay, and then there's quadrant 4, which Urban calls the dark playground.
Oh, yeah.
It's where we procrastinators go to avoid those important tasks.
It is so fun there.
It is fun.
But there's no reward.
No reward, just endless scrolling.
Endless scrolling.
Binge watching.
Video games.
Yeah.
Anything that feels good in the moment.
Right.
But offers no real reward in the long run.
And it's like the polar opposite of the happy playground.
Oh, have you ever been?
I think I've been there a couple times.
Oh, good for you.
But I think for true procrastinators, it feels mythical. Like, does that place even exist?
It does. It does. For
especially when you contrast it with quadrant 2.
Right.
This is where dreams are realized.
Yes.
Where we build those solid foundations for a fulfilling life.
It is.
But for many of us, it feels like a foreign land.
It does.
Like, where is this magical place? And this is where Urban gets even more specific.
Okay.
He breaks down procrastinators into 3 categories.
Hit me with it.
Okay, first, you've got the disastinators.
Okay.
These are the folks whose lives are genuinely being sabotaged by procrastination.
Oof.
They might have an all-powerful monkey running the show, or perhaps they lack those external deadlines that many people need to get things done.
Like structure.
Like structure. Think of that PhD student with no set deadlines, struggling to make any headway on their dissertation.
I know a few people like that.
Right.
And then you've got the impostinator.
Oh, yes.
So we already touched on.
We did.
They're all about looking busy, but they're masters of quadrant 3.
They're very good at appearing busy.
Mistaking motion for progress.
Right. And they might feel a bit superior to the disastinator.
Yeah, it's at least I'm doing something.
Right.
Right.
But in reality, they're achieving just as little of actual importance.
Right.
Interesting thing about impostinators is that they often thrive in fields where the important work lacks urgency.
All right.
Think of artists, entrepreneurs.
Right.
Anyone whose success isn't tied to a rigid schedule.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, we've got the succestinators. And I have a feeling Tim Urban might fall into this category.
He might.
Himself.
Yeah.
They're achieving professional success, hitting deadlines, getting the job done.
Right.
But often at the cost of their personal well-being.
Their well-being.
They're fueled by external pressure.
Yes.
And live in a perpetual state of quadrant 1 urgency.
Constant urgency.
Right, and pressure.
Almost like they've trained the monkey to only respond to external deadlines.
Right.
Which can be pretty exhausting.
That is exhausting.
In the long run. And this is where Urban's own journey gets really revealing.
Okay.
As he switched careers, he realized he wasn't moving toward what he loved. He was moving tasks between quadrants.
The monkey didn't care about music or writing or any specific field. He just wanted to be in quadrant 4.
Yeah.
The land of no pressure.
Yes.
No stakes.
That's the monkey's goal.
Right.
The monkey's dream.
So it's all about recognizing the monkey's game.
It is.
Right. Understanding his motivations.
Yeah.
His desire to avoid anything that feels difficult or important.
It's difficult or important.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
We only have so much time in our lives.
We do.
If we let that monkey dictate how we spend these precious hours.
Yes.
What will we have to show for it?
Exactly.
When all is said and done. You know, at the end of the day.
That is the question.
What have we accomplished?
Big question. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's why I think Urban's article is so valuable, because he doesn't just leave us hanging with a problem. He gives us some solutions.
Yes, let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
The actionable advice.
Actionable advice. It starts with understanding the difference between what's urgent and what's important.
Right.
And that's not some universal definition.
Right.
It's about you.
Okay.
What are your long-term goals? What truly matters to you?
I think we get so caught up, in the day-to-day, answering emails and putting out fires.
Absolutely.
That we lose sight of that bigger picture.
We lose sight of the big picture, and so many of us are living in this state of reactivity instead of intentionality. It's like we're on autopilot, just letting the demands of the day dictate our actions instead of consciously choosing how we want to spend our time.
So how do we break free from autopilot?
That's the question.
Right. How do we become more intentional with our time?
Awareness.
Okay.
Urban talks about becoming aware of that monkey in your head. That voice that whispers like, let's just watch one more episode. Or, I'll start that project tomorrow. Yeah. Just noticing him shining a light on his tactics can disrupt his control.
It's like we're catching him red-handed.
You got it.
Right. Like, I see what you're doing there.
I see you, monkey.
And then suddenly he's not so sneaky.
Not so sneaky anymore.
Right.
Another powerful tool is time tracking.
Okay.
I know it sounds a little tedious.
Yeah.
But trust me, it is eye-opening. Try tracking your time for a week. You might be surprised how much time you actually spend in that dark playground.
Oh, I think a lot of people would be shocked when they realize, how much time they're actually spending.
They're like, oh, I was just taking a quick break.
Right. And it's not about,
It's not about beating ourselves up.
Beating yourself up.
But it's about understanding our patterns so we can make conscious changes.
Right. And then from there, you can, start to make different choices.
Exactly. Data is empowering.
Yes.
Once you see where your time is actually going, you can start to make choices about how you want to spend it.
Yes.
And that brings us back to those different procrastinator types. And Urban suggests that understanding your particular style can be key to finding the right strategies.
Okay, so let's revisit those categories and see how they might play out in real life.
Yes.
So for the disastinators,
the
folks who are truly struggling, Urban suggests that sometimes it's about recognizing that the monkey has grown too powerful to handle alone.
Yeah.
And maybe therapy or coaching could help them develop better coping mechanisms.
Yes, and I think that's a really important point.
Right.
We often view procrastination as a personal failing, a lack of willpower.
Right.
But sometimes it's a symptom of something deeper, like anxiety or depression.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing when we need to reach out for support.
When it's more than just,
When it's more than just, oh, I just don't feel like doing it.
Right.
And for those impostinators,
yeah,
those masters of looking busy, maybe the key is setting clear boundaries and priorities.
And being okay with saying no?
Yes.
To those things that feel urgent.
Right.
But aren't actually important.
Not actually important, and create space for those quadrant 2 activities that are truly important.
Which often get pushed aside.
Yes, they do.
Right. And for the successinators,
Succestinators.
you're driven by those external deadlines. Maybe the solution is building in some internal deadlines.
Yes.
And rewards.
Internal deadlines and rewards, so important for them.
Right.
They need to find a way to motivate themselves from within.
Right.
To create their own sense of urgency and accountability.
Right.
Rather than relying solely on those external pressures.
And this brings us back to a point we made earlier. You know about defining what truly matters to you.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in the pursuit of,
external validation.
Just ticking those boxes on someone else's checklist. But if those achievements aren't aligned with your own values and aspirations, they're meaningless.
They are meaningless.
It's about asking yourself, what kind of life do I want to create?
Yes.
What legacy do I want to leave behind?
Such an important question.
And using those answers
as
your compass, as your guiding light,
as
you navigate, the complexities of life.
That's beautifully said. And once you have that compass, those guiding principles, it becomes so much easier to say no to the things that don't serve you.
Yes.
And yes to the things that are aligned with your deepest values.
And it's those yes moments that the real magic happens.
The magic happens.
When we step outside of our comfort zones.
Yes.
Embrace those challenges.
Yes.
And allow ourselves to grow and evolve.
And that growth and evolution is what makes life so incredibly rewarding.
Yes.
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Not for anyone else's approval.
Right.
But for our own sense of fulfillment.
I love that. And it's not about
being perfect.
Becoming,
some perfectly productive person.
No.
Yeah.
We're going to have days when that monkey wins.
We are going to have those days.
We are.
We're only human.
We're human.
There will be days where we just need to give in to the dark playground.
It's okay to spend some time there.
But it's about finding that balance.
Absolutely. It is. Yeah. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
It's okay to pace ourselves, take breaks when we need them, celebrate our victories, and learn from our setbacks.
And be kind to ourselves along the way.
So important, be kind to ourselves.
Because, let's face it, this whole procrastination thing is a journey, not a destination.
I couldn't agree more. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a process of self-discovery.
Right.
Learning to work with our own tendencies.
Right.
And finding strategies that help us navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life.
And you know what? I think we've given our listeners so much to think about already.
I think so, too.
That it's time for us to take a little break.
But when we come back, I want to dive into some specific strategies for taming that monkey.
I'd love it.
And reclaiming our time.
Yeah.
For those quadrant 2 goals that truly light us up. Okay. So we're back and we're ready to tackle these quadrant 2 goals.
Yes, we are.
But I think it's important to acknowledge that taking action can sometimes feel kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, it can.
It's we know what we should be doing.
Right.
But actually doing it is a whole other story.
It is. That's that classic gap between knowing and doing. And that's often where that monkey really digs in his heels.
He's nope, not doing it.
Yeah.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we go from intention to action?
Right.
Without getting paralyzed by fear or self-doubt?
Yeah. Well, one strategy Urban emphasizes is the power of small steps.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on this enormity of the task, break it down into tiny, manageable chunks.
Yeah.
It's like climbing a mountain. You don't get to the top in one giant leap.
Right.
You take it one step at a time.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one.
Because it makes those big, scary goals feel so much more manageable.
Much more achievable.
Achievable.
And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Yes.
Each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory worth acknowledging.
Right. It's like giving ourselves those little bursts of positive reinforcement.
Absolutely.
Which can be so motivating.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be anything big.
No.
It's just acknowledging, hey, I did that.
Yeah. Recognizing that progress, even in small increments, is still progress.
It is still progress.
Exactly.
And here's another tip for taking action.
Okay.
Experiment with different approaches to see what works best for you. You know, we talked about those different procrastinator types.
Yes.
The strategies that work for a disastinator might be very different from those that work for a successinator.
So for someone who thrives under pressure, maybe setting external deadlines or finding an accountability partner would be helpful.
Right.
But if someone tends to shut down, when things feel too intense, maybe focusing on creating like a more calm and supportive environment would be a better approach.
Exactly. It's about understanding your own unique tendencies and finding strategies that align with your personality and your work style.
I love that.
And
you know what else can be really helpful?
what's that?
Paying attention to our self-talk.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so easy to fall into those negative thought patterns. When we're struggling to tell ourselves I'm lazy or I'm incompetent or,
Right. I'm never going to achieve my goals.
We'll never get there.
That inner critic can be brutal.
So brutal. And, those negative thoughts can really become like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
They can.
Keeping us stuck in that cycle of procrastination and self-doubt.
It's a vicious cycle.
Right.
So how do we quiet that inner critic?
Yeah. How do we cultivate a more positive and supportive inner voice?
It starts with awareness.
Okay.
Just notice those negative thoughts as they come up.
Right.
Don't try to suppress them or push them away.
Right.
But just acknowledge them without judgment.
Okay.
And then challenge their validity.
Okay.
Are those thoughts actually accurate?
All right.
Are they serving you in any way?
So we're putting those thoughts on trial.
Yeah.
We're like
examining the evidence.
Examining the evidence and seeing if it holds up.
Does it hold up?
To scrutiny.
Yes. And what you'll often find is that those negative thoughts are based on fear or insecurity rather than fact.
Right.
And once we've kind of challenged those thoughts, we can start to replace them with more positive and empowering beliefs.
Okay. So instead of saying, I'll never finish this project,
right,
we could say this project is challenging, but I'm capable of breaking it down and making progress.
Exactly. It's about shifting our mindset from defeat to possibility.
Love it. And those small shifts in our thinking,
they can be so powerful.
Can have a huge impact.
Huge impact.
On our behavior.
Yes, they can. And it's also important to remember that we don't have to do this alone.
Right.
There are so many resources out there to help us overcome procrastination.
Yes.
From books and podcasts to therapists and coaches.
Right.
There's a wealth of knowledge and support out there for anyone who's struggling with this challenge.
Yeah. And sometimes even just talking to a friend or a family member.
Absolutely.
About what you're going through can be so helpful.
It can be so helpful just to feel seen and heard.
To feel less alone.
Less alone.
More understood.
More understood.
More motivated to take action.
And be so powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into procrastination,
yes,
I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Okay.
Remember, you are not your procrastination.
So important to remember that.
It's a habit.
It's a habit.
A pattern of behavior.
A pattern
that you can change.
You can absolutely change it.
It's not a character flaw or like a sign of weakness.
It is not.
It's something that we can learn to manage and overcome and even use to our advantage.
To our advantage, absolutely.
And this journey of overcoming procrastination isn't about becoming, some perfectly productive machine.
No, it's not about perfection.
It's about finding what works for you, experimenting, and celebrating those wins.
Absolutely.
So to our listener out there who sent in this topic, I hope you found this deep dive helpful.
Yeah.
What is one small step you can take today?
Yeah.
To tame your monkey and move closer to those quadrant 2 goals that truly matter to you. We would love to hear your thoughts.
I would.
On social media.
Yes, please share.
So feel free to share your insights and experiences. And remember, even if you stumble, even if you fall back into those old patterns,
it happens.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Every day is a new opportunity.
It is a new opportunity.
To start fresh, to make different choices, and to create a life.
To create the life you want.
That feels aligned with your values and your aspirations.
Beautifully said.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into procrastination. We hope you enjoy the journey and that you're feeling inspired to take action. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring those fascinating corners of the human experience.
I love it.